Awesome Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Lupinranger here, and this week, in place of my usual weekly Lupinranger VS Patranger review, I wanted to do a special Lupinranger related video. Next week I will do a double up episode of this week's and next week's, and I have stuff to say about this week's, but it wasn't enough. But I wanted to do this video for two reasons. A, because it's a topic I wanted to talk about, and B, because the Lupinranger Patranger episodes recently have just been so, not really bad, but it's just there's not a lot to talk about, so I felt like taking a slot with something a little more substantial-ish. So, the title of the video is Too Much Lupinranger. It's a question more so posed, I guess, personally, because there is more Lupinranger, that's just a fact. Whether you like it or not, there is more Lupinranger in Lupinranger VS Patranger than there is Patrangers. But I guess it's about, the question itself is about whether that matters to you. I feel like I'm in a weird position, which is why I wanted to bring this up, because the topic of are the Lupins getting too much focused, I feel like has been, it's gotten, you know, not worse, but like, you know what I mean, more prominent as it's gone on, it's become more obvious. But it's been around since like episode 2. I remember like talking in the comments in my episode 2 and 3 reviews, like people already calling it out. And like, so I was, you know, lenient. I don't know if lenient's the right word on it, super early, because like this is a first. This is the first time we've gotten a series with 2 title Sentais. You know, we've had similar-ish stuff like the Go Rangers, but it wasn't anything like this. So, you know, I was like not gonna get mad too soon because I just didn't know how they were gonna structure it. Like, would it be formulaic like Rider? Would we get Lupinranger episode, Patranger episode, Lupinranger, Patranger? Would we do a 2-parter for one, 2-part, or would we mix it up? I think I even mentioned that in my early reviews. And so I wasn't sure how they wanted to structure it and how the structure might change as the series went on. But, you know, here we are, episode, what, 37, 38. We're like 10 plus, roughly, episodes from the end of the series. And the Lupinrangers have gotten the primary focus. It's really funny, I've seen multiple people bring up, oh, it's because the Lupinrangers are first in the title. I never thought that was true. I mean, maybe it is, and we just don't know that it's supposed to be that way, but it just kind of struck me as odd because I was like, you know, like Drake and Josh got equal focus just because Drake was first in the name. I don't know. But, you know, and there is like the whole merchandise side where they've gotten more merchandise promotion, and even some stuff that was clearly for the Patrangers has kind of gotten pushed into the Lupins, and that's because apparently they're more popular. They're the more popular choice, you know, amongst the fans there, which the thing is that even if they're the more popular choice, you can still give more plot focus, like, evenly distributed. Like, I was thinking about how Rider works, where there's sometimes where a secondary or third Rider, you know, gets a lot of story focus, but obviously they're not getting all the upgrades because the title Rider gets all the new upgrade items and forms and figures, and that's just kind of the way it is. So I was thinking, I think they could have done it so that, okay, the Lupinrangers are more popular, we're going to give them more mecha, more power-ups, whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean you don't give the Patrangers focus, if you know what I mean. And see, the thing is, the reason I wanted to make the video is that I'm in a weird position. Like, objectively, it does bother me, because the concept of the series is cool. Again, this is the first of its kind, where it's, you know, this Versus series. So I was excited by the uniqueness of that concept and all the unique setup that it could bring, and I feel like they're not taking full advantage of it. Similar to Q-Ranger, I feel a little bit more lenient because, again, it is the first time we're doing something like this. Like Q-Ranger, we've had series with that many Rangers before, you know, like with Q-Ranger and stuff like that, or close to that many Rangers, but we never had it out the get-go, right out the gate. So with Q-Ranger and Lupinranger, I give them a little bit more leniency because it's the first year doing it. So, you know, it's like growing pains, I guess. So, but with this, it's like objectively it does bother me that there is a little bit of a lean towards it, because I think that overall the narrative would be more interesting if you had even focus, both for just like the overall plot, if there was one, like more of one, and the character dynamics. And so yeah, objectively that does bother me. I would like to see a little bit more variety in that, and I think there's a lot of potential with that concept. And when you just focus on the Lupinrangers and you make it seem like the Patrangers are more of like a B character, it takes away from that core interesting premise of having 2 Sentais fighting each other. Now, I say that like objectively because even though it does bother me, it also doesn't. Just because I do prefer the Lupins, and that doesn't mean I dislike the Patrangers. I do like the Patrangers. I don't know, Saki has kind of gotten on my nerves more recently. But at the core of it, I do like them. I like their suits. I like them as characters. I think they have potential. You know, I'm not like, I hate those guys. They aren't even the thieves. But it's just more like, I do prefer the Lupinrangers. Although it's weird, I think Tsukasa is probably my favorite character on the show. But, like, as a team, and it's not even the reason I prefer them. I do prefer their suits a little bit, but that's not like the core reasoning. My core reasoning is that from very early on, I was very invested in their story. Like, I appreciated that they have a personal goal, which inherently makes me more invested. But it's not just that by itself, it's the fact that I like the bond that they have as a team over that goal. Like, within the first and second episodes, they established that, like, not only do they each have an individual reason for why this is happening, which is like also a shared purpose because the thing that happened to him was the same thing, but they have this bond and this promise to each other that, you know, if one of us should fall in battle, the other one or other ones will fulfill the goal. And I think that was really cool. And early on, it kind of established me as being more invested in them. Plus, I always kind of tend to prefer the more vigilante teams. But, like, that's, I think, the core reasoning, which is why I think giving the Patrangers more focus would benefit, because they haven't gotten as many focus episodes. And I mentioned, I think it was last week's review, that they spent, I feel like, too many of them on Sakia, where his story is like, I'm insecure. And we've done like 3 or 4 of those, I feel. And I want to get to know the Patrangers better, because up until more of their recent, semi-recent focus episodes, the reason I wasn't as invested in them is their story was, hey, we're cops, we do our job as cops. And we've gotten some insight into why Tsukasa and Keiichiro wanted to become cops, but maybe it's just me, but they weren't like the most interesting answers. And I guess that's more of a personal thing, but I just wish we knew more about them overall, so that I could become more invested in them as characters and their journey. I think it could have been more beneficial if they gave the Patrangers kind of a group purpose as well, you know. And I kind of go back and forth on that because it makes the Lupinrangers unique from the Patrangers, which I think is a good thing to make their motivations unique. But I think if they both had sort of a specific group dynamic and bond, it could make it easier for you to attach yourself to both teams, you know, either equally or maybe picking a side of the conflict. Like, I think making them have a personal reason to go after the Gangler as well. Like, right now it's so impersonal, I feel, in terms of the main thing. Like, they're like, the Lupinrangers are going after the collection to get their loved ones back. The Patrangers going after the Gangler because it's their job. Again, that differentiates, differentiates. That's the decayed version. But I just feel if they gave the Patrangers more of a personal thing, this could all just be me. Because the core reason that I attached to the Lupinrangers, again, was because of the story. But I think that that might have helped people attach to them. I know Patranger has his fans. It's not like they only got 3 fans. There's a lot of people that are mad about them not getting focused on their fans. But I just feel that would have more evenly balanced the show. And if, like, the emotional reasoning is one reason the Patrangers, or the Lupinrangers got more popular, it's probably something to do with aesthetics too. But then I feel like giving the Patrangers that and making it more even from the get-go could have helped it. So it's just kind of a weird situation for me, because objectively I do want them to be more balanced, because I think the concept of a versus show is super cool. But I don't necessarily mind the Lupin getting more focus. I'm not like down with the Patrangers don't get more focus, but like when an episode happens and I realize it's more Lupin leaning again, I'm not really mad. You know, I guess, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I agree. I think they definitely needed to balance it more. And I would like to see this concept tackled again in the future. Like, I'm hoping, however this went, doesn't deter them from it. I don't want to see it get worn out. Like, I don't want a Versus series to become one of the normal rotating formulas, because I like that it's kind of special. But, like, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing this concept tackled in a few years, maybe 5 years or something, and just done better. Like, I'm hoping they use this as a learning experience in terms of balancing the teams. I think that they botched on it. I think they could have done a better job early on of being like, choose a side and give them both really compelling, you know, aspects to it. And there has been some good stuff for them, the Patrangers, every now and then, and some good interactions. Like this week's episode I thought was a really interesting dynamic with Keiichiro and Kairi that they are building off of from a previous episode. And I think that they could, you know, afford to build that up more. I feel like I'm making a lot of build puns, but I'm not talking about build. But yeah, I think you get what I mean. I think that they really wasted a lot of opportunities. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I know there's a lot of people that are mad that the Lupinrangers get more focus. Some people that, you know, might not care as much as I do, but I just wanted to address that. It's definitely something I'm going to follow up on once we get to my series wrap video, because I'm interested to see how it happens in the next 10-ish episodes. Mainly because I honestly expected by this point them to know each other's identities. I remember being worried it was going to happen too early and waste this dynamic, but now I'm like surprised that I don't necessarily think they'd be working together fully by this point. I don't think anything like that would happen until the final arc, maybe last episodes, if at all. I mean, I'm sure they will, but I expected them to know the identities by this point in the series. So I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, like my series wrap video will kind of have my follow-up thoughts on this to see how it all wraps up. But anyway, like I said, let me know what you guys know. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get the notifications for all my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.